Today we are talking about the LaFerrari, one of the 3 halo cars from Ferrari that we have in our collection, and we want to give you guys a very unique perspective on this car. As you know, I drive all my cars. I buy these cars because I'm passionate about them and I love to drive them. Here we have the LaFerrari that in a year and a half of ownership I've put 3,000 miles on. So today we're talking about how does this car compare with the other halo cars from Ferrari in our collection. What is it like to own and drive this car and actually put miles on it? And more importantly, let's talk about how does this car compare to the modern hybrids of today. Considering this represents the beginning of the hybrid era, we're going to be talking about where it started, where we are today with hybrids, and where I think the car industry is headed. Okay, I'm awake now. Exhilarating, it's thrilling, and it's scary, because listen, still spinning all the way through 3rd gear. 10 years later, it's still outrageous. When it got launched, was quite controversial. Not unlike the F80. We did not see hybrids coming. And all of a sudden, Porsche, McLaren, and Ferrari burst onto the scene with 918 Spider, P1, LaFerrari, all hybrid cars. At the time, I mean, the only thing I could think of that was a hybrid was a Prius. Just about every single car review you see with a LaFerrari in it, the comparison of how it measures up against the P1, the 918, and that'll, you know, that'll always be a thing, and I get it, you know, I fully get it. But we haven't really talked about, and I don't believe anyone's really talked about, how does it measure up against its predecessors. Now look, I don't own an Enzo as of right now, and I don't really know that I ever want to own a 288 GTO. I respect that car for what it is, but having the F40, I just don't have that desire for the 288 GTO. But we can specifically talk about how this car measures up to our F40 and our F50. The F40 of the 3 obviously is by far and away the most analog of them all. The F50 is a gated manual, natural aspirated V12, and the only thing not analog about that car is there's a couple little digital things on the dash, but it's a step on from the F40. The gearbox is much, much smoother because it's natural aspirated. The power band is much more linear, which makes the F50 quite honestly, a much easier car to drive. That F1 suspension really shines when you drive those cars back to back. It's so much more stable at high speeds than the Enzo. I've never owned an Enzo. I do own Ferraris from that era. And this car, number one, this is actually a car that's very easy to live with. Listen, I love to drive my F40 and my F50. I road tripped my F50 1,200 miles. After about an hour, it's time to stop and get a little bit of a rest from those cars. They're phenomenal, but they're very demanding driving cars. With the LaFerrari, cruising along here in the highway, this is no different than driving a 458, an F8, 488, quite honestly, from any other brand. And the car handles and drives like any other sports car, you know? No, this is not a Grand Touring car. It's not a Bentley Continental GT. It's not a Rolls-Royce Wraith by any means, but it's very easy to live with. AC works really, really great in this car. The seats are actually relatively comfortable. The gauges here, there's nothing analog about these gauges at all as we compare that to the F40 and the F50. They're all digital, but they're not to the level that we have in cars today, whether you want to talk about being SF90 or 296 or, you know, anything from McLaren or even Porsche for that matter. This is still mostly all physical buttons. You scroll through some basic menus. Most of your controls are here on the steering wheel, and they work very, very well. Most of this interior is very recognizable directly from the 458. I say, as you compare that to modern cars, that's a good thing. I don't have 16 menus that I've got this haptic feedback stupid square on my steering wheel that I got to thumb through and change that I'm looking for or whatever on buttons that barely work. My eyes are constantly on the drop down to get them to activate and wake up and get them to work, and then my eyes are down on the screens and I'm trying to thumb through all the different menus. They're a massive distraction. They don't work well at all. They're horrendous. At first glance, it made the interior of this car and cars of this era look dated. Now, I get back in this car and I'm like, thank God. 10, 11 years later, your production cars are just now getting to the performance level, the horsepower of where this car was 10, 11 years ago. But I have to be brutally honest, they don't do it as well. When I get into a LaFerrari, the last thing on my mind is that it's a hybrid. All I'm thinking about is this car is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. It could be launched today and still be absolutely outrageous, incredibly cool looking, and with 1,000 horsepower, it's as fast as anything else today. You get into the new cars, 296, SF90, the Artura, even the Revuelto, and I'm a huge fan, but they are much more about the hybrid systems in those cars. So I would argue that this car gives you the performance of what a hybrid car and a hybrid assisted car can do, but without the experience of it being a hybrid car. And listen, here's the reality of it. Everything is fast today. Everything is fast. 900 to 1,000 horsepower is not uncommon in today's world. It just is not. Everything's fast, but not everything's fun to drive. This car is absolutely mind-blowingly fast, but it is still very, very, very fun to drive. I love hitting the brakes and seeing that huge rear spoiler pop up. It's so cool. Another fun thing about this car, when you hit the brakes aggressively, it sounds like you got the hazards on. But it flashes even quicker, blinks even quicker, and what that is, it's a safety feature so that when you're on track and you're under hard braking, the taillights flash really quick to let the guy behind you know that you're braking very hard and aggressively. So it's kind of a warning signal on track. The first time I drove this car on track, however, I'd never seen the rear spoiler come up the way that it does, nearly as high as it does, because there's different heights that it'll come up. I was looking back, seeing that huge rear spoiler pop up. All of a sudden, I'm hearing the brake lights flash real quick here on the dash, and I thought there was a short or something wrong with the car. This car on track is really great. Yeah, it's 10 or 11 years old, but it's still a 1,000 horsepower rear-wheel driven car, which is a phenomenal recipe on track. How it compares to Ferrari's 6 Halo cars, you know, the F40 is just an absolute raw, untamed animal that absolutely wants to kill you. The F50, quite honestly, is a better driver's car. Power band, because it's more linear, it's more predictable, it's easier to manage how you put down the power. And again, the F1 suspension in that car makes a massive difference, not only how the car rotates compared to an F40, but how stable it is at really high speeds. I did about 165 miles an hour one time in my F40. I'll never do it again. Front end gets so light that really all you're doing is trying to keep the car in the lane, because it's just floating all over the road, and at those speeds, absolutely terrifying. The LaFerrari is so stable. It's just planted to the road, very stable. The suspension is set up for those levels of speed. It does it extremely well. But the other thing with this car, though, is Ferrari made a 1,000 horsepower supercar that you can drive all the time. I put 3,000 miles on this car in the year and a half that I've owned it, and I've done that with ease. It wasn't like I set out to go do some long road trips in this car, and I haven't done any road trips in this car because there's zero luggage space in this car. We got to talk about some cons, and the car does have a few. One is the value, right? These cars are now pushing between $4.7 to $5 million. That's a lot of money. That might be a pro in terms of, that's great, my car is going up in value. It is a con in that it means less and less guys are ever really going to drive these cars. And that part is probably the saddest part of them all. The other con, and also is a big one, not only is this a hybrid, but it's an aging hybrid system. I've heard crazy numbers on the internet, guys. I hear everything from 250. I saw one comment today said it was $500,000. No, it's not. Now, it's still very expensive. It's about $160,000. From the two people personally that I know that did have it done in their LaFerraris, it was about a year wait. So their car basically sat bricked in their storage facilities or their garages for about a year while they waited to pay Ferrari $160,000 for a replacement battery for their hybrid system. This one has not been replaced. I do have the warranty on this, and the warranty is very expensive. When you do the warranty, you've got to go through a full service. Even if your car's already been serviced, there's a whole nother checklist of services they do. So between the cost of the warranty and the service, it's like $48,000, and that only gets me 2 years of coverage. Basically an impending problem, which also is another reason why a lot of guys are not driving their LaFerraris, because they don't want that battery to fail on them and be stuck with that expense. One thing that I hope those guys do realize is whether you drive the car or not has nothing to do with whether or not that battery fails, because of the two people I mentioned that did have their batteries replaced, one of them was not driving that car at all and had stayed plugged in like it was supposed to. He just went out to his warehouse one day and that car was totally dead, totally bricked. So you're already rolling the dice with that battery. It is a ticking time bomb, so go drive it. With that big con, and again, that's a very big con, it's expensive, and it is a matter of when, not if. Ferrari did show me when they launched the F80, they showed all of us, they do have a permanent solution to solve this battery problem long term. It's falling under what they're calling their Ferrari Forever program, because they do want every Ferrari to stay on the road and being driven and enjoyed forever. Contrary to popular belief, by the way, while we're on that subject, so many people in the comments think that Ferrari doesn't really want you to drive their cars and, you know, all this. That's not true. That's really not true. Quite honestly, and I've talked to the executives of Ferrari, and I've seen it happen, when they come to giving out their allocations of their very limited cars, the guys that qualify and actually drive their cars will be the ones to get those allocations first. Ferrari does want their cars out there being driven on the road and enjoyed. So really want to squash that rumor right there, because I know firsthand that's not true. Ferrari is building in-house. It's not outsourced from a secondary vendor like the battery is in this car, and it will provide a permanent solution to these older hybrid batteries that are failing. That's all the information they gave us on it. I don't know what the difference is in the technology and the manufacturing of the new replacement battery, nor do I know when that battery will be available. I can say that as of right now, what is this, June 2025, other than showing us that battery at the F80 launch at the factory, I've heard nothing else about it, so it's definitely not available, nor has it been announced when it will be available. And third, and most importantly, I have no idea what it's going to cost, but I'm pretty darn certain it's going to be expensive. But it will be one of those things that long term, I think 10 years from now, these cars will be 20 years old. They will be becoming classics, which is crazy to think, but most of them will have had the upgraded, newer battery. And my hope is that that battery does deliver on all the things Ferrari said, and it permanently resolves the issues that we've had of these batteries aging and dying out and whatnot. So those are some of the biggest cons of this car. I throw in bumpy road mode, as I do nearly every Ferrari that I have when I drive them. It slacks off that suspension just a bit, and it makes it very easy to live with. The radio in this car, just like every other Ferrari, sucks. It's terrible. Don't even turn it on. But again, with that amazing, glorious V12, why would you ever? The steering wheel in this car, it's got the shape down the sides here very similar to that of my race car. All they did was just put a little bar at the top and bottom to connect it. Obviously the race car only has the left and right sides to the steering wheel, but because it's a road car, they put the top and the bottom. And listen, I really love it because it's one of those little subtle reminders that when you get in the car like this, you're driving something very special. And that's what this car should be all about. You know, when you grab the steering wheel, you're reminded this car is born in racing. And that's what this is about. And immediately it gets you in that mindset and you're ready to drive like an absolute animal on the road. And I love to see that the V12s seem to still be hanging on in the modern cars. We've got the 12 cilindri, no hybrid assist. I applaud that. Wish that the interior would be stripped back, the screens and all that jazz, none of which provides value. It's a headache, quite honestly. If you're gonna have a hybrid, this is the recipe. Natural aspirated V12. If you gotta have a hybrid system, okay, fine. Make it as minimally invasive and involving in the driving experience and the performance of the car as possible. And I think that's what the Revuelto's done. And it shows why I enjoy that car so much. Same thing on that steering wheel. It's all physical buttons. and it's fantastic. There's a button for every function that you're looking for. Yes, when you first get in that Revuelto, at least for me, I was a little overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God, there are buttons everywhere. But within about an hour or two of driving the car, I've got everything from my front axle lift to my drive modes, turn signals, radio controls. I can thumb through whatever menus and basic menus that I need up front, all with ease. And because I can feel a physical button, I don't have to drop my eyes and try to touch something on a touchpad. And I love that car. That is the recipe. This is the recipe. This is where it was done and done right. Absolutely a fan of the 918 Spider and the P1. For me, the LaFerrari will always be the choice for me because this car is a perfect balance of a raw, brutal, visceral driving experience. Golly. But yet, oh, this car. But yet it does it in a package that you can really enjoy. You get to experience this so much more because the car is so easy to live with. And I know I keep going on about that, but it is something that Ferrari did that I did not expect that to be my takeaway. And quite honestly, my biggest takeaway of this car is that it's 1,000 horsepower, screaming V12, visceral and crazy, but yet flip it up in 7th gear, cruise along at highway speeds, and you can relax, slow things down mentally, and really enjoy one of the greatest supercars of all time as a daily.